Our guest tonight is Cody Rhodes. How you doing?
I'm fairly good. Thank you for asking.
I've never had someone tell me they're fairly good. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I assume you were good before, and now you're just fairly good because you're talking to us.
No, I mean, like, I feel like it's a lie if you say, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm great." Like, well, everybody, it's a regular day for me, running errands around. I got 3 dogs in a car that have to get dog baths. One of them has to get cut, so I'm fairly good. That's where I'm at.
You can't be great on this show.
Yeah, the honesty's refreshing. I really enjoy it. All right, well, you've jumped headfirst into the independent wrestling scene with upcoming matches scheduled against Kurt Angle, Jushin Thunder Liger in the Northeast Wrestling Federation. Some exciting stuff coming up for you. What were your perceptions of the indie scene while working for WWE, and how have they changed over the last several months?
Well, I don't think my perception on the independent scene has changed in the last few months at all. If anything, it changed over the last 2 years because of the boom that was NXT. And NXT, you can dress it up as whatever you want, is essentially an independent show. It is the top stars who are free agents from various independent promotions, and there's some equity in them already, and the crowd is aware of that and knows some of their tricks and some of their shtick. So I think in the last 2 years, just like many in the WWE community, we all were made to take notice. There are guys who make you take notice, especially with social media. You can't pretend certain elements and entities exist or don't exist when they're out there and they're as hot as can be.
Oh, well, I mentioned opponents like Kurt Angle, Jushin Thunder Liger. How excited are you to square off against some of the best in the world right now? And who are some of the wrestlers you've never faced before that you can't wait to step in the ring against?
Well, I mean, particularly because we're kind of right on the cusp of it. The Kurt Angle match. Kurt Angle is a first ballot WWE Hall of Famer. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. I was there in 1996 when he wins the gold medal in freestyle with a broken neck. So I feel like Kurt Angle's always been part of my life as a fan, as a wrestler, and now as competing against one another. That one in particular is kind of the gleaming name on the list. That's just kind of pulsing, and what happens there is going to be very unique. That one in particular, and then the partnership that's kind of we're just now kind of cultivating how it's going to go and which way it's going to work. The partnership with Ring of Honor looks like it's going to take me to more places, outside of the United States with some more international flavor, and that's really like intriguing to me.
Mike, your next question.
As things currently stand, you're being characterized as one of the hottest free agents in wrestling since you're not necessarily tied down to any single promotion. So what are the biggest benefits of being that type of wrestler? And also, is that something that you want to continue doing, or would you like to ultimately sign a full-time deal somewhere else?
Oh my God, I would never sign a full-time deal with. I don't foresee myself signing a full-time deal with anyone ever again. 10 years is a long time to essentially be owned as a talent, and I had a wonderful time with WWE, but if anything, it's taught me that I want to be in control of every move I make. There might be places that I like to stay longer or want to kind of put my flag in the sand and rally them as competition against WWE or as an alternative per se. But I like the idea of being a free agent.
BG, next question.
You've been a part of some very exciting storylines and matches in WWE. My favorite was the work you did with Goldust and Dusty against The Shield, leading into and at Battleground in 2013. What was that experience like for you, working with Goldust and Dusty? And do you hold that program as special as myself and other fans do as well?
I'm going to disappoint you. There was so much about that time period that touched me and was really, it's something that will stand out for me as a favorite memory of my father, what he was able to do actually the day of Battleground, and how he was able to get the people to their feet when the rest of us couldn't. But it is not in my top 5 of things that I did with WWE, for the reason being that when I got into WWE, I wanted to be anything, other than just Dusty's kid. I did not want to have any connection with Dustin either, as far as Goldust. Not because I don't love them, because that's just nostalgia, as far as if I was just to pretend to be them or tribute to them. So I wanted to be very different. I wanted to look at the 3 Rhodes on paper and be very different. I never really foresaw us having kind of that family moment, but we did. But there's so many things about that match. People might know this, but that match was also, Battleground was originally designed to be War Games. War Games was going to come back, and then somebody, and I actually don't know who, so I'm not being vague, but somebody said, no, it takes away too much ticket space, so we're not going to do the War Games. And then it became a tag match, and before it was ever a tag match, it was supposed to be me returning, and this, cool, grifter-like Midnight Rider mask that I had commissioned and paid for and was all excited about. So many things didn't happen for it just to be the family match. And I'm glad people loved it. I'm glad people loved it. When I look at it now, I look at it from all of I wonder what if about all the other things, especially the War Games portion.
Mike Yuri?
Well, when you left WWE, you mentioned in your statement that it was a creatively stifling environment and that you didn't necessarily feel like you were being heard or that your ideas were being taken into account, and you just mentioned something there. But can you recall any other times that you could share with us where you had maybe an idea for a character or an angle that you felt really strongly about, but it never ended up making it to TV for one reason or another?
Well, I was very proactive, as is a lot of, I was taught to be proactive by kind of some of my mentors in the game. I feel like every week I had a different idea, and I don't pretend to think that all my ideas were great, but where I was particularly more frustrated was that I would not just have an idea about a segment that evening. I would have an idea about an overall long-term game plan for me and for my opponent at the time, and I would take that to the Performance Center at the time where my dad was working, and gosh, I've put a few of them out there online, but I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but I have so many private links of different things we tried just so that I can show you, okay, here's what it sounds like in pitch, but this is what it looks like in practice. The last one I had was a 3-man group with Ty Dillinger and Tyler Breeze. I thought it was the most clever thing ever. It was this little vignette, as they call them, shot in a tailor shop where I'm just demeaning the tailor, and I'm just this rich, entitled legacy. I only was ever allowed to put a picture out of it because I'm fairly certain Breeze would kill me if the whole thing made it out there. But those were the things that were frustrating when you go that far, when you go on your day off and you take other people's times, Ryan Katz, Dusty Rhodes, Paul Heyman, 3 people that helped me put together at least 10 different iterations of Cody Rhodes, and none of them seem to click with anybody.
Well, working the independent scene, I assume, is a lot more creative freedom for you, more than you've grown accustomed to from during your time in WWE. But did you have the opportunity? You did have the opportunity to play a lot of different characters, and you had the opportunity to go through several different phases in your WWE career. Is there a certain gimmick or a certain character that you had during your time there that you felt, the most into, that you were able to sink your teeth into creatively more so than the others?
Well, when we had the brand split originally with SmackDown and Raw, and there was a lot of pride, Bleed Blue, there was a lot of pride about being on SmackDown. After Legacy, I was drafted to SmackDown, and I was really able to create my own thing, and I didn't have to pitch it to anybody. I just did it with the clear protective mask and the paper bags. These were my ideas, and they became their ideas too because they greenlit them. They let me go do it. it wasn't a time in my career where I was micromanaged. It was a time when I literally could go out on a SmackDown or in the early seasons of NXT, and I could say what I want and hope it was a home run and come back and find out what they thought. But the masked period of time is always, always, always something that will stand out to me as a significant and great time in my career. Putting paper bags on people's heads and so much fun. So being able to stand across the ring from Rey Mysterio, just endless amounts of fun. Being able to win the Intercontinental Championship, it was all that was a dream.
Brandon Gavin?
You grew up in the wrestling business surrounded by brilliant wrestling minds and are obviously a very creative person. Do other wrestlers seek you out for advice and opinion on their characters or angles?
It's a good question. So I have a reputation in the locker room. Somebody once said, I think Chris Jericho once said, "Man, you can get anything over backstage. I wish more of this stuff would make it out onto the main stage." And so I have a reputation of helping people out or helping people fine tune stuff. There's a few folks like that though. Kevin Owens is like that too. A lot of people go to Kevin Owens. Cena is a great example too. There's a couple of talents that just love to talk wrestling all the time and love to throw out creative what ifs, and they all start for lack of a better idea, but by the end of it you get to, hey, that actually would be a really good idea. There's producers like that too, Michael Hayes and Arn Anderson. You get them talking, they could, if they just had a pencil and paper in front of them, they could write out an entire year of the WWE product. There's some really creative minds, and when those minds get heard, I think is when you see WWE at its best.
But your wife, who was known as Eden Styles in WWE, emerged as arguably the top backstage interviewer before you two left. Do you think it was a missed opportunity not to have you two work together, especially since other couples have been so successful in the past?
Well, I have to be careful with how I answer it, because one of the things we suggested another couple ended up doing to a T. Like, it's just blatantly what we had suggested. But hey, couples, there's not much to suggest with couples in the first place. I'm not saying it was stolen, but we had another thought too, where when it looked like Stardust was going to be happening no matter what, we had another thing that I got a private link to this, actually. I'll have to share some of these with you guys as long as you don't let them out. But there was one where she was kind of a Harley Quinn character who went to lure Cody Rhodes back out of Stardust, but she couldn't do it, and she fell down the rabbit hole herself. So I do, yeah, it was a missed opportunity. Whatever is real, it sometimes translates the best on TV, not unlike the battleground stuff we were talking about earlier. That was real, and that's why it translated well on TV. She's my real wife. Yeah, she was a really kick-ass backstage interviewer and announcer, and she had real credentials. She was in the master's program at the University of Miami. She graduated from the University of Michigan. She wasn't just a bikini model, and for whatever reason, we could bang them over the head with that all day long. We weren't getting much traction on that either.
Well, while working with WWE, you formed a relationship with Stephen Amell from the show Arrow. It was announced that you will have a guest role in the 5th season debuting October 5th. What was your relationship been like with Amell, and how excited are you to be part of the Arrow TV series?
I have a lot of respect for Stephen, because he reminds me a lot of a pro wrestler, actually. He's incredibly good at selling his ideas to folks. He's always working. His social media is a great example of that. He is always working to improve the consumer fan experience. So I have a ton of respect for him. To go and read for a role for Arrow made me happy enough. Hey, there's this role, you might be good for it. I flew out to Hollywood and read for it, but to get it and to be a guest star in that 3rd episode, and to continue essentially where we left off. People who liked the Stardust Stephen Amell interaction, which was to me the best thing Stardust was able to offer, they're gonna love that things kind of start where we left off. We're by no means buddy in the episode, and it was really it's really fun to physically challenge one another. It reminded me a lot of a wrestling match to see if I could go, as far as stunts are concerned, if I could go in his world to challenge myself. And it was a hell of an experience for 3 weeks. I went one night covered in these just little scratches from the quiver, the little arrow quivers, the quill on top of the arrow, and just a many bumps, bruises, and big falls that I didn't expect, but it makes a hell of an episode. Plus, Dolph Lundgren is a guest star. They're lining it up for Arrow this season. Season 5 is going to be bonkers.
Mike Huey?
Well, acting obviously comes with the territory in professional wrestling. So how do you think that your experience as a wrestler ended up helping you on Arrow? And also, is there any interest on your part in terms of doing more acting in the future, maybe even transitioning from wrestling into being a full-time actor at some point?
There's definitely a lot of interest in acting. I was born into wrestling, and you can't really necessarily shake out of that, but there's a lot of interest. And on the backside of the Arrow announcement, it looks like we've got some other stuff coming up that should be announced fairly soon about some more roles. So it's something that I am diving headfirst into. And just like with wrestling, you really can't half do it. So I, am making the move out to Los Angeles, where we have a place out there as well. And we're going to full-time commit to acting for a certain period of time. We've booked up a considerable amount of independent wrestling dates up until March of 2017. And then we're going to see kind of the lay of the land there to give it a real shot. Right before I got into wrestling, I was in LA at an acting school, the Howard Fine Acting Studio, and I was terrible. And I thought I wasn't big enough to be a wrestler, but I ended up going to OVW. They recruited me afterwards. But it's nice to take a little bit of what I learned. And it's nice to get back in class and see, because they are similar in some regards as far as in eliciting a response from a paying audience member. But when I went to Arrow, I came to set 3 or 4 days before my scenes, just so I could get familiar with some of the vernacular and some of the language, because this is a whole new world. It's a whole new world. If you think wrestling insider terms are crazy, wow, some of the stuff I learned on set was just crazy, and I was just using it recklessly, like I knew what I was talking about. But yeah, no, acting is definitely part of the future, and wrestling as well.
BG, final question?
Switching topics for the final question, we love video games, so I was wondering what are some of your favorite games you played this year, and which upcoming releases you're most excited to play?
That's tough, actually. I think the last game I really gave my undivided attention to, other than the Halo series, well, yeah, Metal Gear Solid 5 got my undivided attention. Phantom Pain for sure. I was really pissed that they did not have David Hayter voice Big Boss, or I don't want to spoil the game for you, but I was pissed he did not voice it and Kiefer Sutherland did. And then when I played the game, I realized it's not like your traditional Metal Gears of old. There's so much actual gameplay involved and less cinematics, and the Afghanistan, Africa environments they've created, the open world feel, mind blowing. Other than that, Arkham Knight was a real treat for a longtime DC fan. And then other than that, I'm just, as you may know or may not know, there's a large community of WWE folks and a few from the Arrow team who are part of my Clash of Clans clan, and that's just a life-sucking experience. You're just committed to that game no matter what. Once it gets you, it gets you.
Well, a huge thank you to Cody Rhodes for coming on the show. Tell the fans where they can support you and your upcoming projects.
Cool. Yeah, no, you can find me on Twitter at Cody Rhodes, as easy as can be, and the official Facebook page is also Cody Rhodes. It's got the little blue check by it. We're kind of clearing out a lot of the old fake accounts since I'm, brand new to Facebook, but everything's right on there. Northeast Wrestling this weekend, Battle of Los Angeles the weekend after that, and just the hits keep on coming.
Fantastic. Another huge thank you to Cody Rhodes. We appreciate the time, sir.
No, thank you guys very much. I like what you guys do. Thank you.